Hey, hey, hey. Live from Denver. It's Friday night. Welcome to Critical Conversations. And you can see I am joined this week by my beautiful wife, Melissa.
Hello.
Hey, everybody. I am so glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm
so
to
glad
be
you're here. I'm so glad everybody's here. This is, well, yeah, we get to go live. We get to talk. We get to chat. We get to go over some things. I got a few things to talk about tonight. Hey, everybody in the comments here, all the way from Sydney. My goodness. I am so happy to be joined by you guys tonight live. This is the time of the week that kind of, in a lot of ways, makes my day, makes my week. I love going live and being useful, and also just kind of having a little bit of fun here. As long as everything's working technically, and I think it is, so I think we're all good.
All right.
Sometimes I get so fussy and so nervous about stuff, and I think we're actually doing just fine. Yeah, we're doing just fine. Yes, I did shave this week. I do that periodically. Longtime viewers know I will, maybe once a year or so, I'll just kind of hit this weird reset button on my facial hair. And, my shirt is a sort of negative Google review on People. Oh, let's see here. What does it say? Absolute nightmare, would not recommend. And that has been the mood today for me. I have been having one of my sort of, I'm going to call it an ADHD down day. And this is something that's worth talking about for a second. But yeah, let me share this, and then we'll get to the quote of the week and the other things, because she's got a quote for you guys, and I'm sure it's a banger. And that sort of thing. It is this emotional dysregulation component of ADHD is really something, because those two little words can mean so much to a person's life, personally, professionally, socially. It's not like there's something that people who experience this understand that people who don't seem to be challenged by, and that is that it's not a matter of this is how you want to feel.
Absolutely.
You
don't want to feel that way. It's awful. You're not trying to get out of anything. It's just like, I feel like crap. It's like having pneumonia or something,
Exactly. It's like waking up feeling sick and going, God damn it, it's going to be one of those days where I'm going to have to, take some extra C, or, drink a lot of water, or deal with whatever and take it a little easier. And today's the day I can't go running or sprinting or doing challenging physical things. Like, that when you wake up with the little scratchy throat or the cough or the nose, and you're like, okay, today I'm going to be impaired by this condition that my body is in, that I did not decide, did not ask for, don't want, and nobody else around me wants it either. Nobody wants this. And yet here it is, and there's not anything that you can do about it. And I offer up like a virus or a sickness or something, because I think most people can relate, even though a lot of folks out there will still blame you and hold you personally responsible for being sick. This is a cult
lot
thing.
Of these wellness nuts, they really think you can just prevent all colds by just being super healthy. And I wish that was true. But it's not, because even if you're super healthy, you can still get sick with all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And so in the exact same way, this emotional dysregulation can be a thing. People have this very funny idea out there, and I really hope over all the talk I've done about emotions over all this time, I hope it's clear that they're not something you control.
No. If only.
Or choose or want to always experience, especially on that more negative, bad feeling side, right? And on those days when, it just, where it just comes in strong, it's like waking up with a cold. And it's been an interesting differentiation for me as an ex-cult member, and I'm sure for a lot of you, to differentiate between the negativity that's installed or induced by the cult and its environment and the negative self-talk that it reinforces and the negative feelings that it gives you because of your reactive mind and all that kind of stuff. You know, you get reasons for these feelings and these ideas, and you're also given a whole spiel about how it's just your lack of spiritual integrity, honesty, transparency, openness, compassion, whatever, fill in the blank with whatever the cult leader or the, you know, the abuser or predator wants to fill in there to make you feel like your emotions, your feelings, your ideas, you know, are something that is a moral failing on your part. You choose to be this way. You choose to, it's a decision you're making to continue, you know, to feel that way. And no, it's just not that way at all the time. Anyway, wanted to share that. Another thing, because I hope I'm sharing in a way that's clear that it's like we're not, you know, it's just, you don't need to feel bad about yourself.
Right. Exactly.
That's all I'm really trying to say here, right? Is I will have days where I'll just beat the crap out of myself over this kind of thing before I finally twig on or realize, oh, right, yeah, duh. It's like having a cold. It's like I'm beating myself over something that I have no control over. Why am I doing that? And of course, well, because I'm habituated to do that, and maybe that's not a great thing to do. But cult or not, that is also, that whole package kind of is there for some of us, you know, sort of neurodivergence, if you will, right? Some of us who have these neurological things, and it's just something you got to cope with. That's all, you know. And I'm just talking about it to share, really. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Right. Some days just gonna have one of those days.
Exactly, it's gonna be that.
I wanted to give a little shout out to Bud123 here. I got 3 hours of sleep to finish my classical mechanics homework and study for a classical mechanics test. Grad school is getting to me. I think I completed more of the tests than the others in the class. Well, I hope so, Bud, and I wish you well. Wow, getting your PhD.
That's amazing.
That is awesome, man. Great stuff. Okay, so just saw some of that happening in the comments, and always want to encourage and support higher education in my audience. There are some out there who will deride and insult and just think horrible things about people getting education these days. And we need it so badly across every field, everywhere right now. So bad. So...
Well, and they always make it
wow,
like education has to be what you're going to study for a career. And it's like, no, education should be a little bit that, but it should also be just there to make you a well-rounded person that understands the world and can critically think and form an argument.
Revolutionary thinking. What is wrong with you, lady?
But who wants that? And nobody in power wants us to be able to do that.
Well, yeah, I'm counting on Bud to build that spaceship and get us the hell out of here.
Heck yeah.
Before Elon. Okay, we're going to get to that. There's another thing I wanted to bring up, and I haven't talked with you about this at all because I wanted to get your reaction in real time to this as well. And that is, I wanted to make a comment about the subject of betrayal, without getting into any or skirting the issue of drama. I don't want to get into too much of that, but I am going to contextualize what I'm about to say with Portland and my experiences in Portland this year. And for those of you who know, you know, and for those of you who don't, you don't have to, and it's no big deal, right? There was a betrayal, personal betrayal. And one of the things that I wanted to share about this is in the feelings about this, or in the aftermath of it, is an observation, and simply my own observation that I thought might be useful. When somebody breaks your trust, violates your trust, betrays you, those three, I think that's all synonymous. And then later tells you, I didn't betray you, when you go, hey, that was, you know, really fucked up. That was not cool. I had you did something that wasn't okay. Betrayal is a break of trust of such strength or force or magnitude that it changes or can alter the whole nature of the relationship.
Right.
It can just change it just like that, because it's such a sudden and hard break, if you will, right? Like in Scientology, they talk about an ARC break. I'm using break in the same way here. Something is sundered, right? And when trust, friendship, there's relationships. Everybody's relationship is whatever it is. If you have, anything that is alive, you have, some kind of, you can have some kind of relationship with it. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have a friendship.
Right.
Right? That involves giving over, deciding for oneself that you are placing trust in another person. Mm-hmm. That's a big key part of friendship, of being, of having a close relationship, is that, I can tell you things, right. I can rely on you for things, and it's reciprocal. I don't believe in one-sided friendships anymore. Where I give my trust and work and, and all of the things that you give, and you don't get anything back, right? If it's not reciprocal, it's not real as a friendship. That is for sure. And obviously, if it's not that, if it's not reciprocal for a friendship, if it has to be reciprocal in order to be a friendship, 100 times more in order to be a romantic partnership where you are so tied to this other person that you are bringing your whole lives together, right, and mixing them in such a way that you are moving forward. We, not me. This is what I say all the time with us, right? And I'm saying that for myself, much more than I'm saying it for her, mm-hmm. because it's a constant reminder that you are joined at the hip, so to speak, with somebody else. And that is really, in a way, about as strong a relationship as we can choose to have. I think there's more added into the mix when you have biology involved as well, when you get to family and you get to siblings or children, then the connections become even, physical, right? Yeah. Bodily, you're connected to this person.
Familial betrayal is awful.
The closer you choose to come together with somebody else, the harder and tougher and rougher it's going to be when that trust is broken. Mm-hmm. And so betrayal is a cut in such a way that it, like I said, it changes the nature of the relationship. I believe that is an adequate way to describe, the magnitude of what this is. But here's where I wanted to get to now that I've kind of laid that out as my idea of betrayal. I didn't look anything up or go do any research. This is just me thinking. And I say all of this because it's your trust. So when the person who betrays you tells you, I didn't betray you, they don't get to be the ones to decide or say that. That's what I wanted to get to, because I think it has utility outside of me. I think a lot of us get gaslighted, or minimally, even if it's not gaslighting, because that's a strong term and I don't want to misuse it, okay? But this is a way to gaslight somebody, is to betray them over and over and over again and continue to insist that's not what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Over time, as a repeating pattern of behavior, that's gaslighting. That's not okay. But even one time, right, of like where that word fits, it's like, okay, I was betrayed. I can no longer be friends with or have that same level of relationship with those people. It just can't be that way anymore because the trust is gone. Trust is something you, or in my case here, in this example, me, I invest in the relationship. So for somebody else to tell you, well, I didn't do that, is them telling you, you don't feel how you feel. You don't have those feelings. You didn't have that loss of trust. And it's an effort to actually smush you and basically kind of just deny that you have any importance or existence at all. Ultimately, that's what it comes down to. And that's why it's so powerful, because it's existential. Right? It comes down to our very, like, do I even exist here? Because this person is indicating to me that I don't, but that they didn't do anything to make that happen. That it's just, I'm just supposed to be happy with this situation, and it's a denial of all of your feelings and investment when they say, "Well, I didn't do that." You know, if you feel that way, then they did, because it's on you. It's up to you. You're the, you know what I mean? Like that's what I wanted to put out there. Mm-hmm. Just wanted to say that because I don't get to. I've thought about that for a long time, and I've never talked openly about it because I didn't want to make it about drama, but I don't know how else to talk about that because that's how it's directly connected to my life, right? The betrayal of Scientology, the betrayal of Scientologists, the betrayal of ex-Scientologists, the betrayal of other people in other areas of life, right? In other professional, personal, etc. It happens, and it happens, and we're going to run into it. There's no way to avoid it. People screw up, or they choose to say and do things that end up being, you know, really messed up for us. So I don't think we can avoid it. I don't think we can, you know, come up. I don't think there's any way around it happening. So it's just more a matter of trying to cope with it when it does. And I offered all of this today in an effort to try to say, hey, look, it's if somebody's laying that crap on you or whatever, don't buy into it, right? It's okay to feel how you feel. It's okay to look at the world the way you want to look at the world, and define your world according to your standards, not what somebody else keeps insisting to you that their standards need to be yours. They don't ever have to be. You can be your own judge and all of that, right? When it comes to how you choose to have your relationships. And I guess all of that really comes down to, or comes back to, boundaries. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When people don't respect your boundaries.
Yeah. You know, and that can be a violation of trust.
Yeah,
exactly. Because if they're going to do it once, they're going to do it again. If they keep telling you, well, I didn't do that, then you know for a fact they're going to do it again if you give them another opportunity.
Yeah, if they're not apologetic.
Because they don't get it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just the kind of how it is. Okay, good. So, magic. Oh,
yeah.
Quote of the week. So let's finally get to this quote.
All right. Magic is just science that we don't understand yet. Arthur C. Clarke.
Ha. Yes, I'm familiar. I love that. I love Arthur C. Clarke. Okay, cool.
I mean, it is. That's all it is.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah. That's absolutely true. We're gonna talk about some stuff with this, but first, let's check in with our Snuggles Not Struggles cam, and let's see here. Oh, there we go. Okay, there he is. Aww. There's our little guy. Oh, look, there he is in the background. I don't know if you can hear that. He's barking in the background in real time here. And this was just him in the living room. He was kind of watching both of us while I was sitting there filming him, and then he came running up to mommy.
Aww, good boy.
Yes, he's such a good boy.
He got a little haircut this week.
Yes, you can see he got his haircuts. His hair's cut. Yes, mailman's there. That's right. Exactly right. That's what's going on.
He's protecting us from the mailman.
That's right.
He's protecting us from our bills. That's really all.
Basically, yeah. He's trying to keep us chill. All right. So there's our. Excuse me. There's our snuggles, not struggles. Cam. Ooh, took a little sip of Coke. Okay.
Oh, no.
All right. So let's talk about some magic. Okay. Now, magic is a great, big, huge topic. You start putting your toe in the pool of magic and you're going to find out it goes deep and it's got a lot of history to it. And there are different concepts of magic, and you're going to see we're going to be talking today about the more esoteric, philosophical uses of this concept and word, right? I'm not talking about today. We're not going to be talking about stage magic as such, but what my assertion from the limited knowledge that I have, I don't claim full expertise on this, but my opinion is that stage magic is a complete sort of development or offshoot or sort of a thing that comes from the philosophical esoteric magic efforts. Okay, this word embodies a lot of hopes and dreams and ideals and concepts of how the world is or could be or should be. Magic has a lot to do with our ideas of philosophy and philosophical frameworks, if you will, or like, you know, kind of like building some kind of structure of thinking about the universe and the world and our place in it. That's what a lot of magic has to do with. Okay. So we're gonna get into this, Red Pill, as far as what it is. The mystery, we're going to talk here a little bit about mystery schools. That's kind of what I'm starting my focus on here, okay? There's this idea that the universe is put together a particular way. That itself, human beings trying to apply order and reason to the chaotic landscape of life and living around them, is what magic is kind of at its heart is really all about. It's not so different in purpose or intention from what we now think of as philosophy, and which evolved into what we now think of as science and the scientific method. And that is not to say that magic is science. They are not the same at all. One evolved into the other. But people, human beings, with our crazy frontal lobes and our continuing drive to be curious and understand the world around us, well, when we didn't, back in the day, hundreds, thousands of years ago, not millions, because we haven't been around that long.
No.
But as long as we've been around, it seems, we have been trying to think of a way to put order and sense into the senselessness, the seeming senselessness.
We make up all kinds of
life.
Explanations and stories, and every group has one.
That's right. And you could say that magic is a way of thinking about the world in this in a way very akin to how religion is a way of thinking about the world. You know? And these mystery schools. Oh, thank you, Juliana, for gifting those memberships. I really appreciate that. Thank you. The mystery schools of antiquity, as they say, were ancient religious or spiritual institutions that offered esoteric teachings and rituals to initiates who were often sworn to secrecy. There is often a secret component to magic. It's this sort of under the table hidden stuff. These schools promised a deeper understanding of the universe, the divine, and the nature of life and death. And life and death had everything to do with this. There were a lot of existential questions being addressed with this stuff. Now, the term mystery itself, you go, why are they called mystery schools? It's not because they sat on a mystery and were trying to Scooby-Doo everybody. It comes from the Greek word mysterion, meaning secret rite or secret doctrine. And the knowledge imparted in these schools was considered sacred, restricted to those who had undergone initiation. You have to be ready for this knowledge before we can just give it to you. And if this starts right here to have echoes of what goes on in cults, then you're totally tracking with what I'm laying down here. This has everything to do with cultic belief and cultic systems of belief. Even the concept, there are some key concepts here that are really, really fundamental that end up having a great deal of longevity. There's a lot of groups who have built themselves on these two principles. One, that the universe is understandable. That, I don't know if everybody really thinks about that, but that's kind of an assumption.
Yeah, with magic and religion, yeah, it's saying that the universe is understandable, and that may not be true.
It might not be, right? And there are aspects of this that do acknowledge the understandability of the universe in some ways too, and they sort of embrace it. So there's some interesting truths mixed up in the middle of all of this, but there is that basic assumption that things can be understood. And there is this other understanding or assumption made, which is that knowledge can be, knowing things or facts or information can be divided up into an orderly way where one follows another, and until you get to, and you're not ready for this bit over here until you have these earlier steps laid in. This is another way of organizing information or knowledge and practice. This is especially comes in with practice. It's not just about sitting around knowing things. It's about knowing things that you then can do or act on in order to change the conditions around you. Improving conditions in life, one could say, right? And I've got papers today. I got a lot of papers. We're going to see if we can get through all these. There's a lot here. So I'm going to try to whizzy bang through a lot of this, okay? Because like I said, this is a big subject. I could talk for hours about this, but we're going to go bowling tonight. So so I've only got 30 minutes. So here we go. So magic and religion were inseparable in early human societies. In the cradle of civilization, Mesopotamia, way back in the day, sorcery, divination, and rituals were performed to communicate with gods and spirits. And this was the other basic assumption that is laid down in magic systems, which starts differentiating it from, philosophy and science, is that there is a supernatural aspect to life, that life is not just what you can see and feel and touch, that there's more going on, and there's a way to tap into that more and find out about it and utilize it and even weaponize it. In ancient Egypt, there was the word Heka, H-E-K-A, which meant magic, and was believed to be a fundamental force that governed both the material and spiritual worlds. So we're talking early on, these people had already developed life, death, material world, spiritual world, your spirit, your soul, your essence, your chakra, whatever. It passes on, goes on. We're not dying. Death isn't final. There is more. We're going to have more, right? Again, basic assumptions building this sort of these systems. Egyptian priests were seen as powerful magicians, and their rituals involved invocations, sacred texts, and protective spells. Egyptian mythology, especially the myth of Isis and Osiris, played a central role in their magical traditions. Gods or godlike figures, I always find it so interesting because I often wonder to myself the question that I don't think can be answered, which is which came first, the personification or the essence of the god itself, right? When you have good luck, you have this concept of good luck, and then you personify it in a god or saint figure,
like, this
right?
is the god of
it's like
luck. This is the god of sex. This is the god of trees. Whatever,
that's right.
You know?
That's right. And you kind of wonder which one came first, right? Now, in ancient Greece and Rome, magic took on a philosophical dimension. So here we have these rituals and rites, efforts to try to control the world, control existential issues, control the weather, control, right? There's a lot of how do I put this? What's the word for this? I was going to say passive aggressive, but it's not. I don't know if that's the right word. Like by being subservient, I'm going to become the master. By being worshipful, I'm going to get you or manipulate you, Mr. God or Goddess, into doing what I want. Mm-hmm. Right? There's this. That's not passive aggressive, but I don't know what the word to describe what that is, but all of this is people's efforts to exert control over the uncontrollable.
Yep.
That's maybe a good way of putting it. In ancient Greece and Rome, they took on a philosophical dimension. Pythagoras, Plato linked the divine to mathematical harmony and higher spiritual truths, laying the foundation for later esoteric practices. Greek mystery religions incorporated elements of magic, including ritual purification, trance states, T-R-A-N-C-E, trance states, and invocations of gods, often aiming to purify the soul and guarantee a favorable afterlife. Okay, so again, let's cleanse.
Always worried about that afterlife.
That's right. Always got that on the mind.
I wonder when that first started entering humans' minds that there could be an afterlife, and not only could there be a life after this one, but it could suck. Like, where did that first come from?
That the afterlife could suck?
Yeah, and then they make up all these stories about, well, okay, if I do this and that, it won't suck, right? But when did it first occur to them that it could?
I'll tell you my theory. Again, this is not confirmable in any way. I don't think anybody's ever going to be able to go back to the exact moment this happened. But my idea is that it was our emotional need for justice.
Yeah.
That actually brought that about, right? Is the strong have always victimized the weak, and the weak cannot always gather or organize together in order to overcome the strong. And so the concept of, well, there will be justice for you, if not now, then in the future, right? I think that was seminal to the development of eternal punishment or punishment in the afterlife, because you somehow skipped out on punishment this time around.
And then they started making it like for every little thing, If you disrespect your parents, you're going to hell. It's like, whoa, slow down.
Well, yeah, because once you have a punishment, then you can just start distributing it around, and people will abuse the abuse, right? They will abuse the opportunity to abuse in order to teach a lesson and that sort of thing. There are far too many people. When Hannah Arendt talks about the banality of evil and how plain Jane it often is, it so often comes from people who simply can't or won't invest a few moments to think about how they might better deal with an unruly child or some problem or situation they have in front of them. They resort instantly and immediately to a violent solution. Might is always right. And in the animal kingdom, at the end of the day, that is true. So humans resort to that immediately, and it's just very unfortunate, because that's where a lot of the evil in this world comes from, is simply unthinking, not passive.
It's definitely not
almost unpurposeful cruelty.
Yeah.
Just kind of casual. That's the word.
Casual cruelty.
Casual.
Yeah.
Okay. Getting back to the line on magic here. Now, mystery schools, there's a lot, again, there's a lot to this. There are whole books on this stuff, like lots and lots of them. And if you want a really deeper dive on some of this, by the way, I can't recommend enough a couple of podcasts I've done over the years with a man named Joe Zimhart. And if you Google or look him up on my channel, you'll find 2 or 3 of my Sensibly Speaking podcasts were done with him, where we really went deep on this stuff, and Madame Blavatsky and stuff as well. But just to give today's thing on this, these mystery schools have been kicking around for centuries, millennia, and there is so much of our modern life. You know, the idea that these mystery schools went somewhere, or that they are old and no longer around anymore, that's kind of one of the things I wanted to debunk here today, is these things are still alive and well in cults. So many cults personify and typify this mystery school thinking in our modern age. So too does an awful lot of certain literalist and extreme versions of some religions. These things, you know, the Venn diagram, right? They cross over. Mystery schools were central to the spiritual life of the ancient world, particularly in Greece, Egypt, and the Roman Empire. These schools offered secret rites that were often connected to the themes of death, rebirth, and the immortal soul. And all you got to do is pay your 5 pence to get in on day 1, but day 2 of the secret sacred ritual,
10 pence.
And day 3, you see, the cults have been kicking around forever, right? These schools offered secret rites. Now, initiates were sworn to secrecy. And what occurred within the rites was rarely written down, leaving much of what we know to archaeological evidence and scattered historical texts. That's the other thing about this, is so much knowledge of the specifics and details of so many things were lost in the ages because people were sworn to secrecy. The whole thing was supposed to be secret all along, and they left very little behind.
Yeah, people weren't writing things down back then.
That's right. Which is one reason you might know why L. Ron Hubbard was so obsessive about his work being preserved on titanium plates and nickel-plated records, is because he didn't want what happened to these old schools to happen to his school. True story.
You want to be forgotten.
That's right. He didn't want to be forgotten. He didn't want his words going anywhere. He wanted people to get what he said. It would be quite interesting if we knew exactly what Plato had to say, or some of these other, Egyptian things. It would be absolutely fascinating, but we don't have it, right? So Hubbard determined, well, that ain't going to happen with Scientology. And it's interesting because he's one of the few cult leaders who have gone so far out of their way to preserve their own works. Not every cult leader does that. Not by a long shot. Scientology is a little unique in that sense. Okay, now skipping through here, we have the Eleusinian Mysteries.
Something like that.
Yes, we had to look up how to pronounce this one. The Eleusinian Mysteries were the most famous of the ancient Greek mystery schools, centered around the worship of Demeter, the goddess of the harvest, and her daughter Persephone. The mysteries were held annually in Eleusis, a town near Athens. That's why they were called the Eleusinian. For over 1,000 years, this went on.
Wow.
From approximately the 6th century BC to the 4th century CE. Imagine that. Maintaining a practice for over 1,000 years.
I mean, look at Christianity, and it's 2,000 years.
I know.
And Judaism.
Wow, right?
Yeah.
The central myth behind the Eleusinian mysteries was the abduction of Persephone by Hades, the god of the underworld. Demeter's grief caused the earth to become barren, leading to a severe famine. Eventually, Persephone was allowed to return to her mother for part of the year, which symbolized the return of fertility to the land, spring, while her time in the underworld symbolized winter and death, right? You turn these things into myths and stories, people can more easily remember it. You personify this stuff so people can relate to it, and it becomes a mythology. This is how mythology
Yep,
happens,
yep.
right? Initiation symbolized, the rites of initiation symbolized the death and rebirth of Persephone and were designed to convey a mystical experience of the soul's immortality. Again, tied right back into existential questions. What's going to happen to me when I die? Don't worry about it. We got it all figured out. We know exactly where you're going. We know exactly how it's all working. Don't worry about it. Oh, okay, cool, right? The lesser mysteries, capitalized, held in spring, prepared initiates, while the greater mysteries in the fall led to the final revelation. The final revelation. So again, we have this whole system of thought. This isn't just a few random beliefs. There's practices and rites and rituals and personified elemental forces, if you will, and rituals and rites that are designed to put you in a position where you're not necessarily controlling these situations, but you are navigating them without, you know, losing yourself in the process, I suppose. These mysteries, these Eleusinian, sorry, I keep messing that word up, Eleusinian mysteries, influenced later Western esoteric traditions. The themes of death, rebirth, and spiritual transformation would become central to many mystery schools and magical systems. And that's, of course, where this moves forward in time. This rolls forward into what were called Orphic mysteries and Pythagoreanism. There's a lot of big words connected with this stuff, right? Orphism was another mystery tradition based on the teachings attributed to the mythical figure Orpheus, a legendary musician and poet. And according to these teachings, the soul was believed to be divine, but trapped in a cycle of reincarnation due to its involvement with the material world.
What does that sound like?
Yeah, so many things, right? These ideas and myths do have origin stories, and that's what we're talking about here today. Through secret rituals and strict ethical guidelines, often involving vegetarianism, this is back in ancient Greece we're talking about here, and asceticism, Orphic initiates aimed to purify themselves and escape the cycle of rebirth to reunite with the divine. But I thought that was just from Buddhism.
Nope.
Apparently not.
Buddhism still, got its ideas from other places too.
Maybe. Pythagoreanism, developed by Pythagoras, our triangle guy, right? Pythagorean theorem, right? The whole triangle thing. Pythagoreanism combined mathematics, philosophy, and mysticism. Because of course it did. The Pythagoreans believed that numbers held the key to understanding the universe.
Ah, yes,
numerology. They saw the cosmos as a manifestation of divine order. And let me tell you that concept carried forward all the way to Newton and the development of calculus and astronomy, and so many sciences developed out of men centuries later, who wanted to understand the natural order that God created through numbers and through science. I mean, these efforts on the part of human beings have been going on almost unabated from the very beginning of our existence. We
just had little hiccups where certain groups decide to destroy some of that knowledge, and then we have to start over.
Basically. Yes, basically.
Or sometimes start from the middle.
That's right. Now, this is also a little interesting because there was philosophical magic. Pythagorean teachings, especially the idea that the material world is governed by divine mathematical principles, greatly influenced later magical traditions, particularly Neoplatonism and Renaissance Hermeticism, which we'll get to. The Pythagorean notion of the harmony of the spheres and the sacred geometry became essential to esoteric thought, where magic was seen as a way to tap into the divine order of the cosmos. So you can see immediately how centuries later, through evolution of thought and practice, this eventually evolved into what we now have as science. This idea of bringing order the whole scientific method didn't just occur to some guy one day. It took centuries and centuries of work on the part of really smart people trying to apply their knowledge to bring order to the world around them, that we have what we have now. The bad and the good, okay? Because what I'm reading you right now and what this is going to is really the origin story of Scientology. And a lot of other cults too, but I kind of focused my historical path here today on where we get to Aleister Crowley and where we get to Scientology.
Okay.
So that's where these schools, that's one of many destinations where the roads that were laid by the mystery schools have led us to. Scientology is an outgrowth of this entire thing. The Egyptian mysteries of Isis and Osiris also, while Greece is doing their thing, Egyptians doing theirs. The ancient Egyptian mysteries of Isis and Osiris were central to Egyptian religion and later became highly influential in the Roman world. The myth of Isis, Osiris, and their son Horus was one of death, resurrection, and divine kingship, right? They're mixing this all into civics and government. They're all one big mess with these, with these groups. Osiris was the god of the afterlife, and he gets murdered by his brother Set, dismembered and scattered across Egypt. I guess Set was really not a very nice guy.
No, it sounds like it.
Isis, his wife, searched for and reassembled his body, resurrecting him long enough to conceive their son, Horus. Wow, I'm going to put you back together, babe, but just long enough so we can have a kid.
Wow.
Wow. Okay. Oh, okay. That's a bummer.
What's happening?
No, it just says here you're cutting out every 4 or 5 minutes for a few seconds. I'm not sure what that's about. Not cutting out for me. Okay. I'm sorry that's happening. Okay, let's carry on, and I hope that bug resolves itself because I don't know what to do with that. Okay. So again, rituals in Egypt around these personified gods had to do with rituals of death, life, coming back, and were believed to offer initiates a deeper understanding of the soul's journey after death. Okay. Now, the Dionysian mysteries, if you've ever heard of Dionysus, these were religious rites associated with the god of wine, ecstasy, and rebirth. Oh, yes, right? Mm-hmm. These were very tactile practices, by the way, in case I haven't really hinted at that much, but there was an awful lot of licentious behavior occurring in these various schools. The Dionysians specifically involved ecstatic dancing and music and the consumption of wine, and that would invoke the presence of Dionysus and allow initiates to experience divine ecstasy and the breakdown of personal boundaries. Yeah, this stuff all rolls forward to now. Whether you're, consuming wine or alcohol or hashish or psychedelics, people have been kicking around doing this exact thing all the way to now. I can go to Meetup right now and go find some meetups in Denver this weekend where I can go engage in some Dionysian,
definitely,
rituals, right? None of this has really gone away. No. I just wanted to point that out, okay?
Listen, we just replaced gladiators and that kind of thing with like wrestling,
boxing.
Yeah.
Things change, things stay the same, right? Okay, now we get into the Roman Empire. Okay, I've really got to kick. Oh boy! In fact,
might have to do a part 2 of this. Yeah,
I'm gonna need to do a part 2. I cannot believe it, but there is no way I can finish this in the next 10 minutes, and I want to give you guys the whole trail. So we're gonna do a part 2. I didn't plan on doing this, but. Sorry, we're going to do a part 2. It is what it is. So we're going to get up to Hermeticism here because this is where we really start getting into the real origin story. This is where it really starts. I should say really starts. This is where it recognizably goes to start to Scientology. There is so much in Hermeticism that Hubbard just fucking took straight up, right? And I believe he took it via Crowley, who was also taking it, which we're going to get into in part 2. But let me tell you a little bit about Hermeticism, because this is kind of interesting. It starts via the Mithraic mysteries. So we have to cover that first. In the Roman Empire, the Mithraic mysteries were a popular mystery school centered around the god Mithras, who was originally a Persian deity. The Mithraic mysteries were largely practiced by soldiers and were especially popular in the Roman military. Mithraic rituals involved a series of initiations in which participants were led through 7 grades of knowledge. The Freemasons, Scientology, and so many schools of divine ascended masters have a framework of grades of knowledge. In Scientology, they're literally called the grades. Grades 0 through 4 will get you up to the state of, or just on the threshold of the door to clear. Hubbard's terminology for all that. Hubbard's terminology for all that is just this stuff reworked. So the Roman soldiers were if they were involved in the Mithraic school, then they had these grades of knowledge. And the central rite was I'm going to pronounce this word, tauroctony. Tauroctony.
Sure.
Tauroctony. Tauroctony. This was the central rite of the Mithraic mysteries, and it was a depiction of Mithras slaying a sacred bull, symbolizing the victory of divine light over darkness and death. Right? It's all about conquering death.
Always.
Like other mystery schools, the Mithraic mysteries were highly secretive, with elaborate initiation rites, possibly involving symbolic death and rebirth. If you know anything about the Mormons and the inner Mormon temple ceremonies, then you know that you're seeing the echoes of Mithraic tradition in some ways. Hermeticism, a deeply influential tradition in Western esotericism, traces its origins to the mystical and philosophical writings attributed to a guy named Hermes Trismegistus. Trismegistus. Hermes Trismegistus, a figure who combined elements of the Greek god Hermes and the Egyptian god Thoth. It's a kind of coming together. You always hear about how when one culture clashes or meets up with another culture, you get this Venn diagram thing. They start overlapping their mythologies and their religions.
Things from one.
Right. One comes into another. Conquerors have to deal with this over conquered territories in order to bring lasting melding or merging of civilizations. You've got to incorporate their beliefs into the conquering system. Mm-hmm. And this is why Christianity has so much paganism in it.
Yes.
Just riddled with it.
So much.
Right? So much. Over time, Hermeticism evolved, blending with other esoteric systems and mystical traditions. Its doctrines were foundational in the development of modern Western occultism. And we're going to trace that route next time, okay? So we're going to part 2 this thing. Again, I wasn't planning on doing that, but there's just too many pages here for me to cover it all. And I want to give you guys all the details because it's, I don't know. I personally, I hope you guys find this as fascinating as I do. I can't get enough of it. I am, as you've seen from my commentary today, I am always taken with how no matter how, the old kind of saying with us, with human beings, right? No matter how many things change, things always stay the same. And we as human beings, as creatures here on this planet, have not really changed or evolved that much from how we were thousands of years ago. I think far too many of us look down upon our older generations as stupid, gullible, ignorant people. And they were not any more than we are stupid, gullible, ignorant people. We are all stupid, gullible, ignorant people. And if we all can agree on that as the baseline, then we don't have to look down upon those who came before. We can learn from and see the evolution and contribute to the evolution of the thought rather than just, we're so much better, right? And this kind of crap, right? I hate that stuff. So that's what one of the biggest takeaways I have from my study of this stuff is how it shows me how universal, absolutely universal, our struggles are. And everything I talked about at the beginning of the show, betrayal and emotional dysregulation and all the problems that we face in our lives on a day-to-day, they, back in the day, had the exact same conditions, exact same problems, exact same situations. ADHD isn't something that just sprang into existence in the 20th century.
They look back at I mean, they can't look back at average people because there's not that much history about average Joe's life. But they look back at people that are important to history and look at their history and they're like, yeah, this guy probably, has a good chance of having had this or having autism or having something else. It's it's always been there. We just didn't identify it as such.
That's right. And instead, what we have, amazingly, what we have, this is worth saying. Bears, lions, tigers, dolphins, whales, elephants, none of them know what their forefathers of 2,000 years ago were getting up to or thinking.
Nope.
We do. And there is a power in knowing that and having that, and to use that power and knowledge to just insult people.
Yeah.
Past or present. What a waste, right? What a waste. So instead, why don't we use this stuff to recognize that the struggle is real, that the values are universal, and that is what actually makes us human. That's what I get out of all of this for myself. And I hope that sharing some of this with you guys today gave you a little bit of that too.
Okay.
What is our critical thinking fallacy of the week this week, my dear?
Let's see. Let's do this one. Composition/division. Assuming that what's true about one part of something has to be applied to all or other parts of it. Daniel was a precocious child and had a liking for logic. He reasoned that atoms are invisible and that he was made of atoms and therefore invisible too. Unfortunately, despite his thinking skills, he lost the game of hide and go seek.
Okay. Good. So I cannot recommend these enough, by the way. Nobody's paying me for this, but I'm going to do total product placement here right now. You can order these critical thinking cards from schoolofthought.org. So check them out.
Yeah.
I'd love to have them as a show sponsor, but I'll push them anyway because this stuff is great stuff. They've also got posters and other critical thinking things that you can get hold of. They have
these two games that go along with this set of cards. And I think these games are hilarious.
Oh.
We'll have to talk about that in a minute.
Okay, good. Yeah, we will have to talk about that. All right, folks. So let's go ahead and wrap up the show. Oh, you have tomorrow a 2.5-hour podcast interview with a former Scientologist, a woman who has just written a book. It's going to be coming out soon. Pamela Nicole Williams is the name of my interviewee. It is a very, very interesting and in places harrowing story. She grew up in Scientology. Her parents worked with L. Ron Hubbard. And that's all I'm going to drop right now and tease you guys with. Check out the interview tomorrow. Join us live. Join me live on Sunday for Critical Q&A. I will answer your questions as I am wont to do, starting at 1 o'clock. It's a good thing that I actually pushed it up to 1 o'clock because if I was still doing it at 11 a.m., I'd probably be doing these 4-hour live streams. Questions, they just never stop. And I don't ever want to stop answering them, but I have to cut myself off so I can go do my recording with Tony. So I'm glad I've set up my Sundays that way. Anyway, it just occurred to me, right? Okay, anyway, it's great having you guys come around. Thank you very much. Thanks for your support. I will ask, of course, financial support would be awesome. Helps keep the roof over my head and lights on and all of that. YouTube has been a platform of diminishing returns. Let's put it that way. But I would like to continue doing this work, and I'd like to keep bringing you this stuff. So help me do that by supporting my channel. That's how I am doing this, is you guys. So put that out there. And of course, if you want to contact me for personal consultation, please don't hesitate to do so. You can reach me through my website, or you can email me at askchrisshelton@gmail.com. All right, guys. See you soon.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.